So I read over 50 self-help books in a year, and this is basically what happened. So roughly at the end of 2020, I really wanted to be able to read all of the self-help books I had, because I had collected a lot over the years. And I really, really wanted to read them all because there were some that I hadn't read and there were some that I really, really wanted to read again. So I decided that I wanted to get into the habit of reading daily. So that's exactly what I started to do. But I realized, I didn't really have enough time to do that. I really wanted more time to read. So I didn't really know what to do. So I came up with the idea that I was going to wake up 1 hour earlier each day to read my self-help books because I really wanted to. I really wanted to read those books. So whenever we start a new habit like this, sometimes it can be difficult, and it was a little bit difficult for me. But I'm going to say it wasn't too difficult because I really wanted to do it. It was something that I really wanted to do. And also I kind of made these little promises to myself to help me do that even on days when perhaps I wouldn't feel like it. And one of the promises I made myself was, if I get up an hour earlier to read, I can have a cup of coffee whenever I do that. So as someone who really enjoys coffee, that was a really good experience for me. And that was a really good idea for me because that helped motivate me to get out of bed. Because even if it was cold, like how it is at this time of year, I didn't mind so much because I'm well, I'm going to wake up, but I'm not going to be cold for very long because I'm going to have a cup of coffee when I'm reading. And that was a really good incentive for me to be able to get up an hour earlier to read. I did also consider maybe I should stay awake an hour longer to read. But as someone who has most energy in the morning, and usually when it gets around to 6 o'clock, 7 p.m., roughly around that time, that's when I really start to drag and I don't really really want to do anything after that time. My brain just kind of shuts down in a way. So I knew that I had to do it in the mornings, but I did think about it doing that way. And maybe if you are trying to install a habit, you may need to, stay up an hour later or find that time during the day. You might not necessarily be able to do it in the morning if you're not a morning person like what I am. Another thing that really helped me, stay consistent with waking up an hour earlier was before I would read and I was making my coffee for my reading session, I would also make my wife a small glass of apple juice because she really likes apple juice. So I would feel really bad if I stayed in bed and then she would come into our living room and she would find that there would be no apple juice there. So that was another reason, another thing that really helped me stay consistent, because I would just feel so guilty if she came into the living room and there would be no apple juice there waiting for her. So I had these little things that I could do that made me want to get up. But most of all, though, the thing that made me really want to do it was the fact that I genuinely wanted to do it. I like reading books. I like the area of self-help and personal development and business books and those kinds of things. And those were the kinds of books that I was reading. So that also made it really, really easy. So when it comes to you and what you want to do, whatever habit you're trying to do, perhaps you want to learn to read more books as well. Then first of all, you got to make sure that it's something that you really, really want. And it's not just something that you think you should be doing, right? Because if you really want to do something, then you're going to do it. You're going to find the motivation to do it. You're going to find the drive to do it. Because if you're just relying on motivation alone, and you don't really care about doing it that much, you don't really want to do it, then it's not very likely that you're going to stay consistent with it. Now, if you want to exercise more, and you want to get up an hour early to exercise, but you haven't been able to do that kind of thing in the past, let's say that you've tried to do that, but you haven't ended up doing it, perhaps you actually need to find a workout that you enjoy more. So some people really like swimming. Some people really like running. Some people really like boxing and martial arts and that kind of thing. And some people just like running on a treadmill, or doing a cardio workout video. So, you got to figure out basically what it is that you like to do. If you want to exercise more, if you want to read more, if you want to do something more, then find a way to make it easy for you. Find a way so you do enjoy it. Find a method that you do like. And it may be the case that you might need to experiment with a few things. You may need to try a few different things out until you find something that you like. But the important thing is that you don't really need that much motivation if you actually enjoy the process, if you actually enjoy the thing itself. So what did I actually learn from those 50 plus self-help books? Like, what did I actually find out and learn about myself and in those books? So the first thing that I learned was that actually I do have a lot more to learn. I thought that I knew quite a lot. And then when I read those books, I realized there was actually a lot that I didn't learn. It kind of humbles you when you read a lot of books, because you think, wow, there's so much out there that I just have no idea about. There's so much out there that I would love to learn, and perhaps I won't ever be able to learn in my lifetime, depending on what it is. It makes you really, especially if the books are non-fiction books, like self-help books, like personal development books, like books on investing, or books on business. When you read like factual books that are not fiction, then it does really open up your eyes to the things that there's just so much in the world that you just don't know. And that is definitely one of the things that I learned, and it was a real humbling experience. I also learned that I had a bad attention span. Like, there was many times, some days were worse than others, obviously, where, I would just drift off. Like, I would just read 2 pages and not even realize that I'd not paid attention to what I had been reading. So that was something else that I learned as well, that my attention span was quite bad, and I really needed to focus on things in order to, make sure that I actually read the full page or pages properly. So that was something else that I discovered as well. And it's really good to learn these things about yourself, because then then that you need to work on those things. And being self-aware is really, really crucial. Another thing that I learned, and something I developed actually, was that my writing got better. I used to think that I was a pretty good writer, that I could write, decently. But after reading lots of books, when I went back to my old writing, I would look at it and think, oh my God, this is awful, basically. So, it really improved my writing skills as well. So I was able to develop better writing skills from reading. And this was something that I already knew to a degree. I don't know which writer I heard it from, which author I heard it from, but I have heard the phrase before, like, if you want to become a good writer, then, read a lot, basically. So that made a lot of sense to something that I had learned. But I just didn't realize it until it actually happened, until I'd read an extensive amount of material, that I realized that, wow, yeah, my writing's pretty bad, but now it's actually a lot better. And I can only guarantee, and I can only say, is that the more I read, the more better my writing will become. So if that's something that you want to do, if you want to become a writer, if you want to become an author yourself, then I highly recommend that you read a lot. Therefore, your writing will get a lot better, your vocabulary will expand, and you'll just get a lot better at writing. Another thing that I learned, another skill that I developed, was my comprehension got a lot better. So by the end of it, I say by the end of it, but because I still do it, this is still something that I do every single day. I wake up an hour earlier to read. But my comprehension has got better. So that means I'm basically able to read more complex books, more complex material, because, when you get into the habit of reading, when you start reading something a bit more complex, it does actually start to make more sense. So an example of this is the book Think and Grow Rich. That's a book that I've only just recently started to read once more. And basically, before I'd done my extensive reading and started getting into the habit of waking up an hour earlier to read, I found that book really difficult to understand, because it was kind of written in a time that was a lot different to how, these days, basically. And now it's a lot better. Like, now I can read it a lot better and actually comprehend it a bit more, because I've read now so many different kinds of writing styles, things that are easy to read, things that are difficult to read, things that are kind of like in between, that require a bit of thought. So now that I read a book from that day and age now, it's a lot more better for me to understand and comprehend and to get the message. So after reading, 50 self-help books, what was the overall message? What was the conclusion that I've got so far from reading so many self-help books? And I personally think that is to never give up on your dreams, to keep on persevering no matter what, to not give up so easily on things that you really want in life, to not quit, to develop self-discipline, and to keep on going when things get really tough, because things do often get very tough sometimes, And when that kind of thing happens, you have to rely on something, and you have to rely on your own self-discipline. And that's what I personally think it is, to be able to get through that, to be able to continue when things are tough. And that's basically what I learned. The big message that I got from all of those self-help books, to never give up, to always persevere, to never give up on your dreams and goals. Because if you do, you might end up regretting that. We don't want to get to the end of our lives, and it's kind of like what Dr. Wayne Dyer would say, and he would say, don't die with your music still in you. So don't die with your music still in you. Keep on persevering, keep on taking action on the things that you truly want in life. And that's basically what I learned from 50 self-help books.